going on, everybody? Welcome to Tonight in Haddonfield. It is Monday, November the 27th. That's crazy. That is less than 1 month until Christmas, which is maddening. It's 2023, by the way, in case someone's still living in 2019. Joining me, as always, it's Mr. Mean Dean Renner. What's going on, dude? Sorry, try that again. I think I had you muted.
Oh, you had me muted. How are you? I'm feeling better finally, for the most part. Stoked to not be sick anymore and here and healthy. So, how about you? How you doing? You still on your stuff?
Yeah, actually, I just looked over at Jade and said, I think I left my inhalers on the bus.
Oh boy. Uh-oh.
Yeah, not wise. A lot better than I was. I can get out a couple of sentences now, so that's a plus. Yeah, no, just breathing sucked for like fucking a month. Still isn't great, but significantly better than what it's been the last few times we've been on.
Yeah,
like even now, I feel like I can still go on for another 2 minutes without stopping, but I won't.
Yeah.
Sure, man. Is that H? I can't see. H6.
H6. Yep.
That's what I thought.
Michael peeking.
The forehead kind of looked like the Michael man or the H6
Yeah.
mask. Nice, good shit.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on, man.
Yeah.
Not a lot of it good either.
Nope.
I want to preface this discussion here tonight by just saying, look, everybody is going to have their own opinions and personal beliefs on things, and I can guarantee right now, not all of Dean and I's personal beliefs line up. But we're going to approach this discussion from more so an entertainment side of things and a fandom side of things. And that is obviously the news that the lead actress from Scream 5 and 6, or at least one of them, Melissa, has been fired due to her stance and, I guess, public form of speech against the violence happening overseas right now. I could go on about that discussion for 2 hours, but it's probably not the place for it. So we'll lead off with this, man. She's out. Jenna Ortega is more than likely out. At most, it was only going to be a small role in Scream 7 anyway.
Right.
Everybody's wondering what happens now. It's, say what you will, but like, whether you side with her or you don't side with her, whether you think she should have been fired or punished, or if she should still have her job. At the end of the day, she doesn't. And now this franchise, coming off of, in my opinion, probably their most successful movie since the first or second one, is just sort of dead in the water, for the lack of a better term.
Yeah. It's a wild situation. I've been seeing comments on it about the last 4 or 5 days. I believe Jenna Ortega is officially out. I think about a day later after the Melissa Barrera news broke, I think hers went official that she wouldn't be returning. Now, hers is definitely due to previous obligations. Like, we knew she was on Beetlejuice 2. She's got Wednesday season 2 coming up. So she has a busy schedule. So I think a lot of people have to take that in mind, whether or not they want to accept that as the reasoning or not. A lot of it is, she's siding with Melissa and she's supporting her friend. And if she is, all good for her. But a majority of it does come from, her previous projects that she had. So I think that's where people need to kind of understand her point of it. Is it's due to work in her schedule. It's not entirely due to her just taking one side and running with it and giving up on Scream 7. And then the Melissa Barrera thing, that's a touchy subject, but we'll get into that. There's definitely a lot to talk about when it comes to her.
I just think in terms of scheduling, you're right. It's not like she left just because of what happened.
Right.
She is super busy. That being said, it's a horror movie. There's always time to find somewhere, even if it's a couple of days on set, especially for the right price tag.
Mhm.
That being said, that would have already been a rush. It would have already been a small role. This current set of events surrounding Melissa probably doesn't help matters any, and it just has them in sort of a bad spot here, man. Like,
Yeah.
we're in a group chat, and one of the guys had mentioned, um, well, he thought that Scream 6 had like a conclusive ending for those characters, and like to an extent, I can kind of see that, but on another hand, it's like to me, it felt more like they were setting up a final chapter for really all the characters from the first six movies.
Yeah.
Um, and now here they find themselves backs against the wall. You know,
Mhm.
the character itself might be in the next movie for all we know. Could be
Right.
someone else playing the character.
Mhm.
But it's not a great look. Not really here to discuss whether you think she should have been fired or not. I mean, we can get into that if you want, but more so, like this affects every single franchise and property out there and how they handle these sort of situations. Star Wars went through it with Gina Carano. More will go through it with other talent going forward. Um, it's just such a fine line, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I mentioned when this first came up last week, and we had our group chat going. Like, where do they go from here? What's going to happen? And what I'll say is, we live in a crazy time where if you voice your opinion on controversial issues or something going on in politics or the world, unfortunately, like you're more than welcome to say your piece and have your opinion, but it does carry some type of consequence, whether we agree with it or not. And I'm not saying, what she did is right or wrong, what the studio did is right or wrong, but you kind of have to pick and choose your battles, know when you want to speak out, and just kind of keep that in the back of your mind that it might come with some kind of repercussions. And it's like you said, it's a fine line. We're not really here to get totally into the rest of it, but I don't necessarily agree with how the studio handled it. I don't know how how big of a voice she really should have had or put out there about her stance on the situation. Just because now look at what it led to and where it's at. So like you said, it's a fine line. It's a touchy subject, and you have to be really smart about not only what you say, but also about what you don't say at a specific time.
Yeah, I mean, we're under such a microscope nowadays, especially celebrities. Not that we are
Yeah.
that, but like you do the just one wrong thing,
Hmm.
right or wrong,
Yeah.
intended or not intended, and everything can change in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I look at the situation and I go, I I honestly see both sides, but not in terms of like I'm not justifying the reason that they
Mhm.
apparently let her go.
Right.
Um, because I think some people look at the comments and go, okay, well that means they support what's going on over there.
Right.
And I don't necessarily think that's the case at all.
Mhm.
Um, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company, and um, really, you look at it, and for me, it's unfortunate that she was fired. Shouldn't have happened. She should, within reason, have the ability to speak her mind.
Yeah.
Um, I I didn't disagree with really what she was saying, to be honest.
Mhm.
Uh, that being said, they have the right, Spyglass, Paramount, etc., have the right to choose who's going to be in their motion picture film. Like at
Right.
the end of the day, it's a business.
Mhm.
Um, if someone doesn't like the way someone sneezes, or if they think they're a low talker
Yeah.
or a close talker, you can dismiss someone
Mhm.
in Hollywood. You
Yeah.
know, and sadly, that's the nature of the beast of that system.
Yeah.
You could get into an argument over coffee,
Yeah.
and you could lose your job because you take on coffee.
Yep.
It's radical. Not saying I agree with it, but at the end of the day, the people that own and run these IPs are the people that are going to make the decisions.
Yeah.
I think the hard pill to swallow here is a lot of people. don't agree with why they made that decision,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they could come out and say they did it for a different reason,
Hmm.
and it's still their decision.
Yeah. I would agree. That's all it really comes down to is it's a business decision, whether or not we agree, disagree, like it, we don't like it. It's unfortunate. It happens. That's what we're dealt with now. And, we'll have to see how they handle it, how they move forward with it. I think the strange thing about this whole situation is there's this big like reasoning is like, oh, she was fired. However, they were only signed on for Scream 5 and 6 like indefinitely. So they had those contracts in place. We got those films. And as far as I know, there was no contract agreements for anybody returning for Scream 7 yet. So it's kind of like weird, like, oh, she was fired, but there was no contract yet. So I guess it's more so like they're choosing not to bring her back. Um, it's like you said, that's kind of their decision. It's a business thing, and we'll just kind of see what they do from here. We were kind of talking about a couple of ideas. Variety, I think, came out and said there's a big interest now in bringing back Nev Campbell and Patrick Dempsey to kind of explore something new with them. Um, the huge rumor right now is now everybody really wants to see Stu come back. So they have a couple directions where they can try to go. They're playing damage control, and at the end of the day, they're not going to make everybody happy, but they're going to have to kind of dig themselves out of this hole so that they can hopefully move forward and get like a good return on Scream 7 to kind of cover all the backlash that they got for what's going on now.
If you haven't yet, please take a moment to like the stream. Helps us out. Leave a comment. Share your thoughts down below, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Slash the bell to keep up to date with all the content that we have coming to all of you out there. It's appreciated. You can also check out our other channel, Legacy of Halloween. It's on YouTube, as well as Legacy of Westeros. And big shout out to our patrons and channel sponsors. Without guys like Jason Nike and Jesse and Ryan, it'd be hard to do what we do, how we do it. So big thank you for that. Jinx myself. Maybe I do need the inhaler. Yeah, it's I wouldn't be surprised if there was an option, like a film option for a third film for her. But at the end of the day, this is where we are.
Right.
I think the best thing that they could do, the best thing they could do at this point, in my opinion, would be reevaluate their decision.
Mm-hmm.
But since I don't think that's going to happen, because now you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
That's the other thing here. They could change their decision a month from now.
Yeah.
And the damage is already done.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you can only polish a piece of shit, so much. And it's like you said, they kind of did the damage. They dug themselves in this hole. It's going to be hard to get out of it. So I guess we'll see like what happens.
It's I wish circumstances were different, but they're not. And this is where we're at. I think the best thing that they could do now is take 5 steps back. Not one, not 2, 5 steps back.
Yeah.
And go, okay, we don't have Jenna. We don't have Melissa. Is there a point in having the other two? Right. You'd have to ask yourself that. Maybe there is opening scene kill or something. Mm-hmm. But I think you need to ask yourself, how can you tell the best story and also the best story for marketing in one single movie? And you basically got to go all the way back to square one.
Yeah. And they got to win back a lot of their fan base. They're not happy right now. I'm in a number of groups, and I see it in dedicated Scream groups and horror groups alone. It's been the talk for like the last almost a week since it happened. So that's probably their best bet. It's their best decision is go back, square one, reevaluate. I don't know if they started script writing yet or not, but I think they need to revamp everything they're going to do and kind of maybe take some time off from social media, focus on what they're doing and what their project is going to be, give it a couple of months, and then come out with an announcement about possibly like what direction you're going to go. So they definitely have to play it like very safe.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my question to you would be, do you have any preference if you had to pick definitively one way in terms of the direction this is going, the one way you'd want to see it go most. Because for me, like you're talking about the seventh entry in a film franchise where specifically six really kind of got off on its own, other than Gale being in the film,
Yeah.
which I really liked. I think the key to success moving forward might be to continue to try to follow something like that. But I think people are going to be clamoring for nostalgia.
Mhm.
And I know Talking Star Wars put in the chat earlier that Nev is receiving threats if she returns. At the end of the day, money talks. It's literally the primary reason she wasn't in the last movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
they back up a truck with an offer that she can't say no to.
Right.
She's gonna go spend 2 weeks of her time on set.
Yeah.
Like it's that simple.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Um, if I'm kind of torn. Um, I think I kind of had an idea where they could actually bring all three back. They could bring Nev back. They could bring back Patrick Dempsey, um, Gear, and develop a story around them. And you could still bring Stu back and shoehorn him in and have him involved. So it's that would hit the nostalgia for everybody. And it would definitely it would give a lot of the fan base something they've wanted to see for a long time. There's been rumors of Stu coming back since 3, 4, 5, and 6, so that's something people are clamoring for. So you you have a safe decision there if you go that route and bring him back. Um, my idea for starting that was to actually have Nev come back and be the opening attack. I highly doubt she'll get killed off, but I think you structure like the opening attack around Nev, and and then you gear your story from there, and you kind of lead into, I guess, would be sort of another Sydney story, but you still have Gail. Um, you can still bring her back, and then you can possibly start to tie into what we just got with 5 and 6, depending on who's going to come back from those. And even if they're going to keep those in continuity, because that's another thing I'm seeing too, is people want them to now forget 5 and 6 and go back and pick up from the original timeline. So that would be interesting. But yeah, I think you can hit the nostalgia bell big time by bringing at least Nev and Dempsey back. And I know the Stu fans will lose their minds if they finally decide to bring him back. So a little bit of creative writing, and you could do something like that with him. So we'll see.
It would. My suggestion would probably require a little bit of retcon because I think we see
Mhm.
Sid's kids in 5, right?
Um,
Don't
I
we
think
see
so.
them in like a stroll, or maybe not a stroller, but they're younger, I
She's
believe.
running. Yeah, she's on a jog and she has a stroller.
Yeah.
So there's definitely at least one with her.
So my suggestion would be we don't really know how many kids she has. You could
Mhm.
write that into the next film. Have a movie focus on them living in the middle of nowhere. Think of like Hush style surrounding
Mhm.
her, Patrick Dempsey, and their kids.
Yeah.
Have the story, you know, revolve around her kids and where they are. And Stu would be kind of like the perfect guy to
Yeah.
Stu and whoever
Right.
track them down, and we sort of get a Screamcation movie,
Mhm.
but with
Yeah.
all them.
Yeah, no, and that's funny. I don't know if we've talked about that before or not, but that was basically kind of like you almost piggybacked off of where I kind of went with it, and that's what I was thinking. Like you're gonna have Sydney, living in maybe not so much like complete isolation or seclusion, but yeah, have her and Mark, living in a quiet house, quiet area, and randomly, this attack happens, or Mark's away on work, she's home with the kids, and one night, her phone starts going off, she's getting strange text messages, or the house line is ringing and she's not answering it because she just doesn't pick up the phone because of everything she's been through, and someone just kind of keeps antagonizing her, and the text won't stop, the calls won't stop, and then all of a sudden, maybe you start hearing noises outside and around the house, and now she's on alert, and then that could lead into your opening, for how that one unfolds. So that's pretty funny. I don't know if we've ever had that conversation or not, but both of our ideas kind of mesh together.
I just like the idea of that type of setting. You know, I've only seen
Oh yeah.
Hush once,
Oh.
but the one thing that like really got me in that movie, other than the sound designs, I'm obviously amazing,
Mhm.
um, is the setting,
Yeah.
the isolation feeling, right? Like
Mhm.
to me, it's the one thing The Shining does well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in this ginormous hotel, but at the same
There's
time,
nothing.
it's like you're there for months and there's nothing, and it
Yeah.
feels empty and it feels secluded, and
Mhm.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. The best description I heard about Hush was from Flanagan himself in an interview, and he called it a contained thriller because it basically takes place in the woods at that single location for a bulk of, if not the entire runtime. So I think you take that direction and gear it towards, this Scream 7 that they're going to try to develop, and I think it ends up working really, really well. So we'll see.
They made a lot of money off Scream 6. I really hope they don't push for, we got to have this movie out by, 2025.
And rush it.
Um, Frankly, I think they probably wanted to have this movie out, originally later this year, but then the
Hmm.
strike happened and, it slowed everything down.
Yeah.
Take your time,
Yeah.
get it right. That would be my advice. And I think the top of my wish list, it might sound crazy, probably because, I just saw him in Thanksgiving, but like, I would like to see Patrick Dempsey in the next movie, and not
Yeah.
as like I'm here for 5 minutes just to show you that I'm still around, but like
Yeah.
a significant part in the
Mm.
movie. Dude can act.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would be a really good, really smart decision for them to do right now. Um, yeah, I think his part in Scream 3 was pretty well done, pretty prominent. But I think this is your chance to bring him back and develop a major story around him and Sydney and the kids, like you said, expand on that and really take kind of like a deep dive into that whole story and figure out what direction you're going to go. I think the obvious killer, attacker, whatever, under the Ghostface costume makes the most sense would be Stu. So that's kind of it's all lining up to kind of go that direction. So it's very smart for them to do that. And Dempsey, I think, coming hot off of Thanksgiving would be a really smart choice to kind of get that in motion and really heavily lead into that, because I think that gives you a chance to at least win some of your fan base back.
Ray Ray says he can act and he's not bad to look at. I think there's a lot of people that probably share those sentiments.
Hmm.
Um, I really, really liked him in Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
which, by the way, is up to $30 million
Yeah.
worldwide. Realistically, it's probably got to pull in about 40 to break even,
Hmm.
which is unfortunate. I thought it would
Yeah.
do better.
Mm.
Probably kills any chance at a sequel. But it's a damn good movie that isn't getting enough eyeballs.
Yeah. Like you said, it's a little bit unfortunate. I'm kind of hoping they extend the theater run a little bit and uh, and give it some more time to continue to make some money before they go and put it on streaming. If they do streaming, I think they should give it like a month, or maybe it might be a little bit too long, but give it some time to be like a premium uh, video on demand rental. Like let people spend the money to rent it, and then do your Blu-ray release, do your streaming release, and and try to kind of recoup what you may have lost at the box office for the past couple of weeks. I would love to see it get a sequel. It's like we said when we did the review, they left the door wide open for that. So I would personally really like to see that, and I got my fingers crossed. I hope it happens.
Fingers crossed, absolutely. And
Yeah.
the other thing that sort of hit me is like Thanksgiving, like just the title itself is not really something that's going to generate a ton of overseas interest.
Right.
And it is showing because
Mhm.
the international box office is not good for this movie. It represents, I think, 4 million of the
Oh
basically
wow.
30 it's made. So
Yeah.
hasn't done well over there.
Mhm.
But no, I mean, I guess my final thoughts on Scream 7 would be take your time, take a step back, do it right. Your IP is still worth money. But if you're gonna just flush it down the drain and rush something out.
Yeah.
Maybe just sell it.
Yeah.
Paramount, Spyglass, sell it. That's probably the thing the fan base wants most right now, is someone else to buy it after what's happened.
Mhm.
Either way, the Scream landscape is going to be pretty interesting to watch for the near future, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like you said, whether they sell it or they just kind of take their time with it, they just have to be really smart with how they approach it from now on. And I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I would kind of not want to see them sell it off, but the backlash that Spyglass is getting is it's not good. So they might have to kind of consider that, even if it's like a plan C decision. So we'll see what they end up doing.
Time will tell. What are your thoughts on Scream 7? Share them down below in the comment section. Where do you want to see them go? Do you hope Melissa finds a way to get back into it? Do you want Nev back? Do you want just something new? Let us know. We would love to hear from each and every one of you. Show and tell time, man. Again, we haven't talked too much in between shows. So I'm completely in the dark in terms of what we are about to see.
Yeah, I was almost in the dark because I started kind of looking through again, and I'm like, all right, I've stuck to horror. I've kind of gone through my bigger box sets and stuff now. So what do I have laying around that I can kind of showcase? So this is it's sort of horror related in a sense. So when I saw this coming out, I did not realize it was going to be as popular as it was. So I was watching it for a couple of weeks and decided, okay, let me grab this and pick this up, and it was sold out in quite a few outlets. I think Amazon has sold theirs out, a few other places. I checked Best Buy. Luckily, they still had them. So I went and put that order in, and I got this for retail because after retail, it skyrocketed. It started hitting eBay for like 150, 200 to the $300 range. So I'm glad I was able to snag a copy. And this set right here is the Ghostbusters Ultimate Collection. This came out about 2021, maybe the end of the year, maybe 2022. And this is the 4K Ultimate Collection. It's got Ghostbusters 1, 2, and Afterlife all packed in here. And they give you a digital code for 2016 if you want to download that to have, but they didn't give you a physical copy in this. So you've got the Ghostbusters slipcover here. They've got like the plasma streams going around the whole cover, which is cool. And we'll take this off. And if you can kind of gauge what the box looks like, it's designed like a ghost trap, which I thought was pretty cool. Definitely an interesting and unique design. And back here, they have this little slot. You pop that open and it opens your ghost trap. And then you get in here, pop that open, take those off, and then everything in here is basically your whole package. You've got all your 4Ks right there. There's a separate 4K special feature disc. And the really cool thing about this one was this booklet. This was a reprint of a very old Ghostbusters kind of deep dive all about the movie. And this was available years and years and years ago. And it kind of went out of production. So when they announced this set and brought this back, it was a huge selling point. And I think that's part of the reason it sold so fast, was to go ahead and get this book. So that was a really cool inclusion on that. Tons of color photos. You've got some storyboards. Looks like there's a ton of script stuff in here too. So this is full of probably anything and everything you would want to know about Ghostbusters. I don't know if it covers all maybe the first two, but I think it might just be the original because it is called Making Ghostbusters. So that was a very cool inclusion. All of these come in their own cases with their own slipcovers. So you have the original here. Those are on the back. Very cool. Ghostbusters 2 right here. And you got Vigo. And then Afterlife. This was like new release when this set came out, which I thought was a great time to pick it up because I was torn on what to get for Afterlife. And then they included it in here. So that was pretty awesome. I like the slipcover they did for the bonus disc. So it's kind of got your Neutrona wands and your proton packs and the No Ghost logo all over that, which is cool.
And it kind of reminds me of the way they used to do the old Rolling Stones CDs and records. It just
Yeah,
looks like the Ghostbusters.
yeah. And then I want to see if this is going to work because I thought my batteries died. I don't know if it'll work, and it will. And if you guys can see that, the inside of the box glows green
That's
with an
badass.
LED when you open it up and a light hits the sensor in there. So I was going to say that. I thought they tucked the battery away in here to where once it dies, it's done. But I guess I lucked out, and that's still running for me. So yeah, Ghostbusters Ultimate Ghost Trap Collection on 4K. So that is show and tell for me for this week.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
That's a hell of a set. To me, like that's the type of set. If you're a fan of any franchise and you're hoping they do something, neat with physical media, you want something
yeah,
like that for sure.
yeah. I could not believe how fast it sold out. Like, I guess it was the price because it was only $100. So to get all of this packed in here in this, like, the Ghost Trap design box, and then nobody really knew about that LED feature with the light up box until you bought it and cracked it open and took everything out of it. So you're opening your whole setup, and then all of a sudden your box is glowing green. So that was a really, really cool touch that they did with that.
So let me ask you: you're a big physical media guy,
Hmm.
uh, and this applies to Ghostbusters now too.
Yeah.
Um, you just opened up a Ghostbusters box. How do you feel about all these franchises that will, do one box set or another box set or another box set?
Hmm.
Even TV series do it now and then, like Game of Thrones did it,
Yeah.
where they had like a box set of the first 6 seasons.
Oh, right.
Like the box set was only for the first 6 seasons.
Hmm.
And then if you wanted to get the full box set, you would have to buy all 8 seasons again or buy
Again.
2 additional solo seasons.
Yeah.
Star Wars has done it where it's like the complete saga. Just kidding.
Hmm.
There's 3 more
There's
movies.
more. Yeah.
There's so many different franchises that have done it. Jurassic Park's done it as well. Um, just how do you feel about that when it's not really the complete set? Like the one example I can think of where it went right is I don't know if you're a big Sons of Anarchy guy or not.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
they had a box set come out, but
Hmm.
it was before their 7th season.
Okay.
So intentionally in the box set, they left a slot for the
Right.
7th season.
Yeah. Um, I I I can't stand it when they do the constant releases and you have something, you own it, and then something else comes out. If they're going to do something like that, that Sons of Anarchy did, um, that's that's great because now you can fit something new in with your existing set and just expand it. I wish more places would take that in consideration, but I think Jurassic Park was a good example where they just kept releasing a box set and then everything individual, and then um, you know, Dominion comes out, um, and now you have another one. And what do you do? Do you buy it singular when it comes out and just add it in your collection? Do you want it to match the rest? So those are kind of tough decisions. For me, it just depends on what it is. If uh, if I already own something and then it's just going to continue, I'll just kind of buy whatever comes out and just add to it. So at least I own it all. That happened with Fast and Furious for me. I bought um, their big collection was like 1 through 8 at the time,
Don't ever
and
believe it's ending.
oh, never. That's an ongoing franchise. But yeah, so they release a big box set on 4K with 1 through 8, and then 9 comes out, and then 10 comes out. So I ended up just kind of grabbing 9 on a blind buy, watched it once, and I'll probably never revisit it. I thought that was pretty bad. And then I got 10. I got a pretty cool edition of 10. It's called the Icon Edition. That's the one that Walmart does, and it's like a big fold out, big presentation. And they just did that for Oppenheimer, so I got the Oppenheimer version of that too. I kind of like those; they're cool. So they're more on the collector level. So adding stuff like that in when you already have like a full collection box set still kind of works because at least you get something a little different, but it's on the collector like end of things. But sometimes, yeah, it's frustrating where they keep releasing stuff and it keeps either you can't complete your collection, or they release an entire new collection. So now you're like, do I want the completed one? Do I try to sell my old one? But who's going to buy that if, this complete one is out? And it's always, it's a headache, but you kind of just weigh your options when stuff comes out, and see what direction you want to go with it. I have plenty of stuff here where, kind of looking at some of it now, where I just kind of fill in. I might have a whole box set for something, and then something new comes out, and I just kind of grab stuff and add to it. And as long as I'm pretty much complete with all of them, and I have everything, and it's along the lines of some kind of collector's edition, um, I'm pretty good with that. Uh, yeah, so it's annoying, but it happens all the time. Paramount is a big one where they just constantly re-release stuff, and you're like, okay, like at what point, like, why do I have to keep buying this if I want new versions? So it is what it is. It's just part of the hobby.
Another example I can think of is Supernatural. I'm a huge Supernatural fan. Named my son after Jensen Ackles, and their complete set, like complete series box set, 15 seasons. When they put it out, I was just like, this looks like shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not good. And there was complaints all over about it.
Mhm.
And yet there's an import box set that had come out a couple years before, which has seasons 1 through 13.
Mhm.
And it looks way better than the
Yeah.
complete series set. And it's like, come on.
Yeah. Overseas and import stuff, they pay a lot more attention to this for some reason, whatever reason, it might be. Import stuff is like almost the way to go. The hard part about that is, if we don't have somewhere here, North America, or somewhere that ships international, it's hard to get that stuff. And you got to pay so much for the shipping. And by the time you kind of invest in that, you're in for like 200 to 300 bucks sometimes, depending on how big of a release it is, and where it's coming from, and all that kind of stuff. So I like the fact that here, as I've mentioned a couple times before, we have a couple of outlets online that already import it for you, and they'll ship, between US and Canada, and they'll take, that the weight off of importing it yourself. Because I bought that that set from Australia that I got for Rob Zombie 1 and 2. Um, it was great because everything was kind of packed into one, and I've had them all individually for a while already, but half of them are sealed, and I, hadn't got around to opening them yet. So getting that was perfect. I could open that up and have everything ready to go. And then I get it from Via Vision directly, not even thinking like, oh, this might be somewhere here in the States where I can get it for a reasonable price. That cost me like $65 by the time I got it from Australia, and it took about a week and a half almost to ship here from there. And then later on, I find out Diabolic had it, and they were selling it for like 40 bucks. And I'm like, I could have saved $20, 25 bucks just on the shipping alone. But I had it much earlier because I got it sent right from them directly. But I'd rather wait a little longer and save the money so I could put it towards, something else, and something new, instead of, wasting that money on a shipping cost. So it's tough. It's just like I said, it's part of the hobby.
Did you ever get your hands on? I think I asked you this privately once before, but did you ever get your hands on that? It's like a special edition DVD of Seven.
I do. I have that. It's in the Notebook, right? It's in the Notebook
Yep.
set, I think. Yeah. I bought that years and years and years ago. I was in Best Buy and just, shopping around, and I'm like, oh, there's Seven. I don't have that yet. Let me grab that. And I picked that up, and I still have that. I kind of tucked my DVD collection away, just because I don't have the shelf space for it, and a lot of that stuff I've upgraded anyway.
Yep.
But yeah, I still own that, and the Blu-ray that came out for Seven, even though it's much more standard, it has everything ported over from that release, so you at least get all the content from it. And we mentioned this a while back, but Seven is still slated for 4K this year. So, or not this year, next year.
Next year. Yeah.
Yeah, coming up sometime 2024. So that's another one I'm really looking forward to, that I hope they do something like really, really collector friendly for.
That would be awesome. I'd love to see Scream Factory do something with Seven at some point too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Be badass. Let's
Mhm.
move on though. There is some news, or at least a lot of talk anyway, surrounding the Crystal Lake series. They appear set to add a new writer. My guess is to the writer's room. And apparently, this person is a popular 80s horror writer,
Okay.
not named Kevin Williamson, who's already involved in the project.
Right.
So I'm intrigued. I honestly don't know who it could be because, like, obviously the possibilities are endless in terms of who hit or who wrote 80s horror movies, but you kind of start thinking, okay, well, who wrote multiple, decent to good 80s horror movies? And
Yeah.
the list goes down considerably. But what are your thoughts on the news? I've seen a lot of people out there going, oh my God, they're still writing it. This isn't going to be ready forever. It's like, there was a strike. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're still writing it. Let them take their time. Let them
Yeah.
cook.
Yeah. Right. Don't rush anything. Um, now my interest is up there a little more. It's like you said, there could be countless names and who wrote 80s horror. So what are we going to get? And that's interesting in the fact that you have A24 doing this series, and just knowing the way that they do things and the product they put out, to bring in like an 80s horror person to come in on the writing. Good choice. And we were speculating, uh, recently with Matt, like ideas that we want to see and different directions they can go. We would like to see them go more serious. So hopefully, when they bring in this new writer, it's someone on that same page, and it's someone notable. And I guess the announcement will come fairly soon in the near future. Maybe before the end of the year would be cool to hear that, because then that'll get your excitement up. But I think they have a good chance at hopefully getting it out by October 2024. That might be kind of rushing it a little bit, but I think that's a great time to aim for, is your Halloween season. Um, but if that's not going to happen, then take your time. Like, take your time, flesh it out, and give us a good product rather than just rushing something to get it out for the simple fact of okay, it's Halloween season and we want to get something out. So yeah, the interest now is just going up for me, in finding out who this might be.
Yeah, I mean, speculative on my part in terms of its multiple 80s horror movies. That would just seem like if you're getting an 80s horror writer of note, the odds of them only written one eight. Sorry, I got some noise going on over here. Um, Only one movie in the 80s would be slim. That being
Right.
said, I kind of can't help but sit here and go, give me Alan B. McElroy. I'll sign
Yeah.
up for that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it'd be a good choice. It'd definitely be a good choice. I have to go back and kind of think, like, okay, who are like the main writers from the 80s? So I got to do a little bit of research on that. But yeah, somebody notable, somebody that knows what they're doing. It's going to flesh out a good story for us. So fingers crossed. It's a good announcement whenever it does happen.
John says, got to go, guys. Have a great night. Sean, how about that CM Punk surprise Saturday? I would not have bet money on it. That's
Yeah.
for sure. And yet it happened. Just goes to show anything can still happen.
Yeah.
Alessandro says, 80s horror writer coming into now. I'd like to see how different it would be
Yeah.
from then to now. I think that's, a fair point. It'd
Yeah.
be whenever you're writing something way back then and you write something for TV now or for cinema now, it's going to be a different process than it was back then.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of different avenues you have to kind of take into consideration and think about. And you've got to think about your audience and who are you aiming it toward? Like, is it the diehard, 80s, 90s horror fans, or is it, modern day? Is it a mesh of both? So a lot of thought and care has to kind of go into what you're doing. But yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what direction they go, and the difference between back in the 80s and compared to now. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say, as a guy who has wanted things to come out super quick instead of wanting people and studios to take time to do the right thing. I've been burnt far more than I care to admit.
Right.
Um, just let them take their time. Like I think
Yeah.
it's honestly, considering it's basically December, I think the prospects of us seeing the show next year are deteriorating by the minute due to
Yeah.
how long the strike lasted.
Hmm.
And honestly, for me, it's just like take your time.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it in 2025.
Yeah.
Um, would just really like to see it done with care. And if you have any familiarity with Brian Fuller's work, um, he should anyways. Usually takes the long, complicated but enjoyable path
Yeah.
rather than trying to rush from point one to point seven and skipping everything in between.
Yeah. Um, and that's your safest decision that you could probably go with is don't try to rush it out. Don't aim for 2024 if it's unrealistic. Save it for early 2025. Save it for mid, maybe go summer. Because Friday the 13th and Crystal Lake is technically like a summer slasher. So you can go that route as well. So like you said, take your time, don't rush it, and deliver a good product over trying to please, fans and people and maybe a studio trying to get it rushed out. So take your time and approach it with care.
Which brings us to Halloween to close out the show. Seen a lot of talk online about where do you think they're at in the process, and the truth to me is more than likely very early, still picking out their creative team, and trying to figure out how you get from writing this thing to renting out stage space or booking locations and excuse me and filming it. So creatively you need all your creative puzzles and pieces in place, pardon me.
Yeah.
um if you if you try to rush through it, as we were just saying on Crystal Lake, or even Scream, I just think bad things happen when you rush. It's bound to not work out for you. um I would guess that we're going to find out soon who the Brian Fuller is of the Halloween TV series. But my guess in terms of like story details, what's involved, who's involved, you're going to need more people involved in what's going on for that stuff to to leak out. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Right now, you have a very tight ship, not very many people involved, and we'll see what happens. But I just think take your time, do it right, and I'm still foolishly hoping Flanagan and Prime get involved, but
Yeah.
it kind of sounds like he's leaning away from doing series with Prime and
Okay.
focusing more on movies. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Your
Yeah.
thoughts on the Halloween process and where they're at now, and knowing that we're probably a couple years away from seeing anything.
Yeah. Um, that is the first update myself has heard in a while. So I don't foresee really much coming out, like you said, besides possibly the announcement of creative by the end of this year. Um, and then, as we talked about before, they have to write it, they have to cast it, pre-production, and everything that goes into leading up to going to camera and beginning filming. So I don't want them to rush that. If there's anything I don't want them to rush, it's a Halloween TV series. I want good ideas, good stories. Um, as the details start to come out, we'll definitely tackle those on here. We'll get into our likes and dislikes of whatever details start to come out. Um, but first and foremost, and most importantly for me, is do not rush this. Like we kind of estimated 2025 ish, because strike deal is going to end. They only have a 3-year window, and you know, it's not a whole lot of time. And then we expect, they're going to either go back on strike or maybe they'll strike a deal before just the end of that 3-year period. We'll see. We can't predict that anytime soon. So take their time, don't rush anything. Like, basically everything that just applied to Crystal Lake also applies here. And I think you have a bit more of an interest when it comes to Halloween than you do Friday the 13th and Crystal Lake. So fingers crossed that they go into it smart.
I wish we could just trade whatever future creative we get for Brian Fuller, bring him over to the Halloween series, and someone else can do Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
Being a little bit selfish. I most of the fan base just really wants to know, is it going to contain Michael Myers?
Yeah.
Or are you going the season of the witch route?
Right.
And while I personally think they could totally tell you that information, I also think it's very possible that if they're not doing something with Michael, which I'm not convinced of, that it benefits them to hold off on telling you what it's actually about until they absolutely have to.
Yeah. If you put that announcement out too early, and it's not what a majority of people want, you're kind of dead in the water for a majority of your fan base before you even get this thing off the ground. So, like we said, approach it smart. Save that for the appropriate time. Don't come up with, okay, we're going season of the witch, and it has a fan base, but it's not quite as large as the rest of the franchise. So if you put that out too early, you're going to grab your H3 fans, but the rest of the people they're gonna bail out on it almost right away. You still have a ton of people that they won't advocate, and they won't even pick up H3 because, oh, there's no Michael. Okay, well, how long ago was that, and where are we at now? And try to put your bias aside, give H3 a shot, and then bringing it up to modern day in a TV series might actually be a pretty good decision. So don't write everything off so quick and right away. Give stuff a chance, and just try to be patient. That's the biggest thing now. Is patience is like out the window for a lot of people. So time will tell. We'll get something soon.
I am hardly the most patient person in the world. So I can sympathize with everybody who's feeling a little impatient. But just remember, you just had 3 movies in the span of 5 years.
Right.
Even shorter than that, but 5 years. You got a making of book this year and a bunch of other Halloween merch, more Halloween merch, and knickknacks and games and shit like that are going to come out. Halloween is far from dead. You have a TV series in pre-production. You have a potential movies coming still too. There's a lot at play, and in order for them to pull off what I believe is a rather ambitious goal that they set for themselves when they made this announcement, that they simply have to make sure they have the right creative pieces in place. Because if you don't, you hire the wrong person, you get the wrong showrunner in there, you get the wrong director in there, get the wrong lead writer in there, and you're in trouble early. And I'm hopeful for this project, but I still think it's very ambitious.
Yeah. I would agree. Be patient, everyone. It's like you said, there's a lot on the table coming up until that next strike or whatever might happen in the future with that. And then, as we already mentioned, 2028, we're pretty much almost guaranteed, as far as we're concerned, that we're going to get something for a 50th anniversary. It's a big milestone, whether it be, some type of anniversary film that ties into original timeline, or they tie it into the TV series, and that's what we get. We'll see what happens when we reach that point. But be patient. Don't throw all your eggs in one basket just yet. And, have hope, and, put trust in them that we're going to get something that's going to satisfy most of us.
I'm hoping. I'm definitely hoping. I could have swore I read something today. I'm going to have to search it up because I don't have it ready, but I thought I read something about that Overlook series that was in development and then not in development, and now potentially back into development.
Okay.
So I'm on the lookout for that too. So anyways, though, if you haven't yet, like the stream, comment down below, share your thoughts there, flash the notification bell to keep up to date with everything we got coming. I think next week we're going to do some sort of countdown. Not sure what, but I think Dean and I will put our heads together and give you guys some sort of horror-like countdown, fun little list thing as we get into the holiday season. But who knows? There could be a ton of movie news out of nowhere, and it could derail us. We'll see. Dean, where can everybody find you at? What do you got going on, man?
Back to another light but manageable work weekend coming up, so looking forward to that. Facebook is your best bet to find me. Also here on the show weekly, Monday nights, 10 o'clock. Legacy of Halloween group for sure. If you guys haven't joined and want to join, just search it up on Facebook at the Legacy of Halloween. About 260, almost 61,000 members in there now. So we are still expanding weekly and pretty rapidly as well. It's calmed down recently, but once we start getting more details about more stuff with the series and all of that, I expect it to kind of ramp back up a little bit to get people talking, which will be good. So, Facebook at Dean Renner in the Legacy of Halloween group.
Check out our other YouTube channel, Legacy of Halloween. Go subscribe to that. Things will start to go back to normal there. It's been crazy. Car issues now today. It's just one thing after another. It's hard to find free time, and when we do, you gotta make the most of it. Tomorrow night, though, on the channel, if you're a Star Wars fan, we got some Star Wars trivia, and the Star Wars 2024 live action schedule has been released. And we're going to go over that tomorrow night, the Legacy of Star Wars. And then we have a new but still untitled show that will debut Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. And if you were a fan of the old Fandom Empire live shows, where there's just a bunch of us and it's chaotic and all sorts of shit's going on, that will be the show for you. The currently unnamed show that we can't seem to agree on a name for. Be on the lookout for that Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern. Can't wait to do this next week. I think it would make sense for our first countdown to be Halloween related. Gonna brainstorm, see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. Weather's getting bad out there. Snowstorm here today. So be safe, take care, and don't forget, the boogeyman is coming.